Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Ephraim Graham. Holiday travelers up and down the East Coast face a tough trip this Thanksgiving. An icy winter storm is wreaking havoc on the highways, causing more than 100 accidents and at least 11 deaths, along with hundreds of flight delays at airports around the country. Heather Sells has the latest.
Severe weather just in time for the holidays.
I would have liked to have gone on Tuesday, but now I'm really glad, of course, that I'm leaving today because I know the weather's going to be just a bear.
The powerful winter storm that already pummeled parts of the west and south is marching east. It's expected to bring with it rain, snow, and powerful winds. Not the kind of forecast holiday travelers want to hear.
My son said, don't you think about driving, and I'm so glad we're not driving.
I hit a bridge coming over and the car just went airborne sideways and I was doing 20 and white knuckle with two hands on the wheel.
Those heading to the airport may be in for some holiday travel complications as well.
My flight got delayed. I wish I could click my heels 3 times and be home, but this is pretty tough here.
25 million Americans are expected to get on a plane this week, but anyone headed to an area affected by the winter storm could face major delays.
Over 12. I came here for a weekend and can't get home. Had to spend a whole night in here in this airport on this cold floor.
The website FlightAware shows cancellations and delays in Texas, Miami, Atlanta, D.C., and New York. Rain and wind are forecast to clear the East Coast by Thanksgiving Day, but the cold will remain.
I try to bundle up as much as I can.
Heather Sells, CBN News.
Some 40 companies say Obamacare threatens their religious freedom by forcing them to cover birth control. They're asking the Supreme Court to decide their cases, which have divided lower courts. The key issue is whether for-profit corporations can assert religious beliefs under the 1993 Religious Freedoms Restoration Act. The companies object to various forms of birth control like Plan B, Ella, and intrauterine devices. Pro-lifers say some of those methods can lead to abortions. Investigators of the Newtown, Connecticut school massacre say they may never be able to know the shooter's exact motive. A new report finds Adam Lanza's mental condition caused him to be obsessed with mass murderers and violent video games. One of those games involved players gunning down students in school. Lanza was especially obsessed with the Columbine school shooting, and he wrote a violent book in the 5th grade in which a character shoots his mother in the head. Last December, Adam Lanza shot his mother to death. Then he slaughtered 20 children and 6 adults at Sandy Hook Elementary before killing himself. But investigators found no evidence he told anyone of his plan. Israel is ramping up its fight to keep Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. That comes after the U.S. and other world powers reached a nuclear agreement with Iran in Geneva. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has reportedly warned President Obama about the fallout during a recent phone call. Here's Chris Mitchell now from Jerusalem.
The phone call between Netanyahu and Obama took place on Sunday. A parliament member described the call to an Israeli TV station. The Prime Minister made it clear to the most powerful man on earth that if he intends to stay the most powerful man on earth, it's important to make a change in American policy, because the practical result of his current policy is liable to lead him to the same failure that the Americans absorbed in North Korea and Pakistan, and Iran could be next in line. Netanyahu announced an Israeli team will be heading to the U.S. to discuss the Geneva Accord, which he said must dismantle Iran's nuclear capabilities. In England, British Foreign Secretary William Hague defended the agreement to Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, this agreement means that the elements of Iran's nuclear program that are thought to present the greatest risk cannot make progress during the period of the interim agreement. In other words, if Iran implements the deal in good faith, as it has undertaken to do, it cannot use these routes to move closer towards obtaining a nuclear weapons capability.
The question many have is, will Iran deal in good faith after its long track record of violating UN resolutions? Also in his remarks, British Foreign Secretary Hague warned anybody, including Israel, from undermining the Geneva Agreement. Meanwhile, and perhaps ironically, deep in the Negev desert, Israel hosted its largest ever aerial exercise. The pre-scheduled maneuvers, codenamed Blue Flag, included combat squadrons from the United States, Greece, Italy, and Israel.
To very good opportunity for us to continue to work on efficiencies, to become more logistically sound, to get all of our forces from point A to point B, and then how do we actually operate together to continue to provide stability within the region. We really appreciate the opportunity.
We live in a tough world, a dangerous world. Israel lives in a dangerous neighborhood, and we need the best equipped, best trained forces as possible to protect our people and our security. We also need allies, and we have great allies here.
When asked about military action in regards to Iran, U.S. Ambassador Shapiro said all options are still on the table. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are skeptical over the nuclear deal with Iran, leading Democratic and Republican senators working on a bill to reinstate the full force of sanctions and more if Iran does not come through on its pledge to roll back its nuclear program. Republican Senator John McCain believes the new agreement could be dangerous.
They have lied, they have cheated, they have deceived for years and years.
Meanwhile, Americans held hostage by Iran in 1979 disagree on the merits of the deal. Retired diplomat Victor Thompson calls it a positive step, but retired Air Force Colonel Thomas Schaefer says it's foolishness, noting, "I never found an Iranian leader I can trust." Afghan President Hamid Karzai is now refusing to sign a security agreement with the U.S. National Security Advisor Susan Rice met with Karzai after his surprise decision. The agreement would allow some U.S. forces to stay behind to train Afghan security forces after most foreign troops withdrew next year. The U.S. says it will pull all troops from Afghanistan after 2014 if President Karzai does not sign the security agreement soon. Karzai insists that the winner of an April 5th election to succeed him should sign the agreement. Coming up, he hosts Fox and Friends, and he is a history buff as well. Brian Kilmeade talks about the revolutionary spy ring you've probably never heard of.
Hi, my name is Breda. I'm just your typical 9-year-old. I love singing, dancing, reading, discovering the simple truth. My grandpa says you're never too young or old to learn the value of a dollar. He taught me the true value of this paper dollar. You see this little gold coin? It says $1 on it. But guess what? That was a long time ago. Today, this gold dollar is worth over 100 paper dollars. This paper dollar is now only worth 1 penny compared to America's former money, the gold dollar. My grandpa says the only money worth saving today is real money, gold or silver coins. He's pretty smart. How our paper dollars lost their value, he says. It's all explained in a new book, The Great Debasement. It's easy and fun to read. If you call the number on the screen, I will send you a copy totally free. Next time, I will explain the simple truth about money.
Help! If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was. Help! And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
They were some of the hidden heroes of the American Revolution, part of a secret spy ring that helped turn the tide of the war. But their story has been cloaked in silence for more than 200 years. Take a look.
When George Washington's Continental Army lost the Battle of Brooklyn Heights in August 1776 and then went on to lose control of Manhattan, it looked like the Revolutionary War might be over and the Americans defeated. In the end, though, Washington's army made a comeback and was ultimately victorious. But it wasn't because of the Continental Army's superior military might. It was because of a little-known group of 5 men and 1 woman known as the Culpeper Spy Ring. Fox and Friends host and history buff Brian Kilmeade uncovers the bravery and heroism of these clandestine spies in his new book, George Washington's Secret Six, the spy ring that saved the American Revolution.
And CBN News recently spoke with Brian Kilmeade about his new book. Charlene asked him what sparked his interest in George Washington's secret Culpeper spy ring.
One of the reasons why I waited so long to do the book is my fear was it was too much of a New York story. And the more I found out about it, and the more I saw what this spy ring did on Long Island, and the more I realized you could really narrow it down to George Washington's Secret Six. And then if you just look at the 13 colonies where we started, you realize New York's in the middle. And then you see quotes from Washington and John Adams saying, you know, if we don't have New York, we cannot win this war. And you saw how desperate Washington was to get New York. He put all his troops there. Then he lost New York, and he thought the best thing for me to do is to leave now so I don't get totally wiped out, which took a lot of courage on his part, which the British celebrated, but they were later to rue that day. Then when he left, and I realized he had to only win this war one way, to outlast the British and outspy the British. So the more I looked at this, the more I realized this was a true American story.
It truly is. And how important was the role of these spies in the war?
I think vitally important, and that's why in the book I write, you know, they saved the American Revolution, because if you think about it, here we are, we get blown out of Brooklyn. We barely escape thanks to some mystical fog that rolls in, allows our troops with the wind change direction coming out of nowhere, allowing our troops to navigate the East River, to go on civilian barges to get to Manhattan. So picture Brooklyn, stuck in Brooklyn, they're about to be wiped out. These barges pull up, they're able to get on, light comes up, they're not done yet getting 4,000 troops out. Well, in comes this fog out of nowhere. Yeah. And I found out that I thought that might have been something that one person says to another person in an allegory that gets blown out of control, until I found Benjamin Talmadge's private notes. He was by Washington the entire time, and he said you could not see 4 feet in front of your hand. And we couldn't figure it out, but we loved it. So they were able to get out. By the time the British moved forward, they see nothing but empty blockages and mini forts. We're all gone. So if you talk about what this ring did, after Nathan Hale gets hanged in 1776, they know they have to form a ring, not a person. They know they have to get people that have a cover story there, not somebody from Yale, who is a great war fighter and a potential great officer, but somebody who actually knew the land. That's why they got a tavern owner. That's why they got a farmer. That's why they got a dry goods owner, think grocery store. That's why they got a guy who's a printer to switch sides in the middle, and a woman who had a reason to be in Manhattan. Even then, it was the place to be. It was the place to party. And it also happened to be the British headquarters.
Pretty impressive stuff. How did George Washington actually manage to enlist these guys, you know, to do such a dangerous thing?
Well, like Pat Robertson trusts you, he had people like Benjamin Talmadge that he trusted, that he knew he grew up there, his family was still there, so he gets his boyhood friend, Abraham Woodhull. He knew he could trust him. He gets the Townsend family, because back then there was a few famous families that date back to the 1500s and 1600s. They all kind of knew each other. So he knew who Robert Townsend was, and Robert Townsend had a cover story. His shop was in Manhattan. Woodhull had a reason to be there. He had a farm. What would a farmer want to do with this war? Nothing. But when they started taking his land and started taking his crops and started harassing his family, he suddenly had a cause to get behind, as well as the fact that he was in for liberty. What about Austin Rowe? Well, he knew Austin Rowe. He knew his brother Nathaniel. So he knew that Austin Rowe was a bartender who had it with the British, who were buzzing around, harassing his family. So he was the guy, the tavern owner, who would get the word to pick up a letter, hop on a horse, and go 55 miles to Manhattan, go across with a ferry, and then pick up that letter and go 55 miles all the way back from Manhattan. At that time, he would then get it to Abraham Woodhull. He would look at it, decide what Washington needed to see, and then walk to the shore where Caleb Brewster, and in my mind, I visualized Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because this guy was a stud. And he had 6 other guys, and he used to row across the Long Island Sound, 26 miles. Wow. I did a stand-up there for Fox and Friends to show everybody what it looked like. It was October, and it was choppy. Can you imagine doing that in February?
No. Wow.
And there's not enough coats in the world. There was no down clothing then to go across with a cannon on his front, and then factor in the British were all over the Long Island Sound. So they did this for 3.5 years. Average, everyday people doing extraordinary things.
Excellent. You brought history to life in this book. Have you always been such a history buff?
Yeah, I mean, no one ever said, Brian, you're a historian, but for some reason it just sunk in. I couldn't wait for social studies, couldn't wait for political science. I'd love to get a perspective where we are at today.
That's awesome. So, Brian, tell us about the one woman who was actually involved. She's never been identified, but you're actually researching it.
Right. So I really think we got to have a shot at naming her by the paperback. And what we found out about her is we see her referenced in the letters as 355. And then when you look in the key, and think about this, there was a secret code back then, and only about 5 or 6 people had it. Washington came, Benjamin Talmadge came up with it, gave it to Washington, said this is what the numbers mean. And why you have numbers? Because if you find a letter and you were able to get they used invisible ink in most of those letters, if you're able to get the stain that brings the invisible ink to life, every third word is a letter. New York was 86. The countryside was a different number. The ship was a different one. Brewster was 726. Woodhull was 712. Washington was 711. She was 355. A lady. Now, there was a different term for a woman. So we know she's upper to middle class. We believe she might even have been British, like James Rivington, the printer, had switched sides in the middle of the war. She had a cover story to hang out and party with the officers. And by all accounts, they drank a lot. And they partied a lot. And it was a party time in New York City. And that's when she would get the most information. Washington had a similar experience in the French-Indian War, getting people around him drunk, and the French officers finding out what they were thinking, and then helping then his British allies get him. So this woman, we know this. We know that when she came aboard, Woodhull referenced her in the letters to Robert Townsend, saying there's somebody who's going to be of extreme use to you coming your direction, at which time intimate details about operations started flowing. No longer ships and cannons and troop strength. Now we started getting to operatives and where the troop morale was. And we believe she was close to Major Andre. Who's Major Andre? Think Benedict Arnold. Major Andre and Arnold were going to team up and turn over West Point and then turn over the entire war to the British. So Andre would have been somebody who maybe spoke too much and talked about Benedict Arnold. The person who would have heard that is 355. That is the lady. And we do understand and we do believe that she lost her life in the war before it ended, the only one to die. And we believe it's because Benedict Arnold came back to the city, determined to find out who outed him. All the culprits went underneath. Washington never gave the names of the culprits, even to a man that he thought was his equal, no, somewhat of an equal, General Benedict Arnold, because he just said, I promised them I wouldn't. Can you imagine if he did? If he did, they all would have been dead and wiped out before the war ended.
Well, we love it. And the book is called George Washington's Secret Six. It's available online.
Yeah.
And where books are sold.
Right. And if you want it signed, you go to BrianKilmeade.com. It goes to my local Barnes & Noble, and I show up, and I'm able to personalize it and send it out for the holidays.
Brian, thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations on all your success.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Up next is the trillion-dollar question. Why aren't we doing more to help Alzheimer's patients? Find out who cares and what they're doing to stave off the dreadful disease.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans. with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right. You could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
It's been called the long goodbye. We're talking about the cruel disease of Alzheimer's. Today, an American develops this terrible illness every 68 seconds. And as Lori Johnson shows us, its victims are often younger than you might think.
At the young age of 53, Paul Turkeltaub learned he had Alzheimer's disease. Now he's beginning his long goodbye.
Because that's what this is like, is just having to deal with this where you see yourself slipping every day. And that's the hardest thing to deal with.
He sees Alzheimer's as much more than losing your keys or missing an exit. It's visiting someone's home for the 100th time and not recognizing a thing.
And it may only take you 5 or 7 seconds to get back on track and figure out where you are and to be able to straighten things out in your mind. But that 5 or 7 seconds is absolutely terrorizing.
Paul retired early to enjoy his remaining years with wife Marcy, his high school sweetheart.
You know, I've always been the one to take care of her, and it's going to be tough to have to face that issue that I won't be there to do that at some point in time.
We're just living our lives day by day, and I kind of don't think about the future.
Paul and Marcy hope a cure will be discovered before it's too late for them, but they're discouraged because so little is spent on Alzheimer's research, only $500 million, compared to $6 billion for cancer, $4 billion for heart disease, and $3 billion for AIDS. Dr. Dave Morgan heads up a leading Alzheimer's research facility. He calls the reason Congress allows so little for Alzheimer's is flat-out age discrimination.
They say, well, that's old-timers' disease. You know, who really cares about these old folks?
Plus, celebrities with other diseases bring attention and support for what they're going through, but you don't really see that with Alzheimer's.
The problem is we have cancer survivors who are going out and they're, talking to people and they're telling folks about how the research is so important to them. In Alzheimer's, we don't have survivors.
Even though Alzheimer's hits its victims and their caregivers the hardest, the cost hits us all, and it's going to get worse. This year, more than $200 billion will be spent treating our 5 million Alzheimer's patients. And as Americans age, the number of Alzheimer's patients is expected to hit 16 million by 2050, along with $1 trillion a year in medical costs.
We need to spend more money at the federal and the state level on Alzheimer's research. That's the only way we're going to ever avoid having this disease completely decimate Medicare. I mean, it won't survive till 2030.
Even though there's no cure or effective treatment for Alzheimer's, scientists say our everyday lifestyle choices can make a big difference. Studies show diets high in sugar raise your risk of Alzheimer's. Also, seniors who ate lots of trans fats had smaller brains, one of the hallmarks of the disease, according to researchers at Oregon Health and Science University.
We know that in Alzheimer's disease that the brain shrinks at an accelerated pace as the disease and pathology spreads to a certain part of the brain. But if you have a larger brain and more brain tissue, you might have a reserve to handle that pathology better.
That same study found that seniors with the largest brains ate diets high in vitamins B, C, D, E, and omega-3 fats. Coconut oil may also help prevent Alzheimer's. It reportedly reversed the symptoms in hundreds of patients to the degree that the Bird Alzheimer's Institute is now conducting the first ever study on the effects of coconut oil.
At least up until this time, all we can say is there's anecdotal information that it may be beneficial. There hasn't been any kind of research study that's ever been done. And so we really can't know for certain.
So while nourishing your brain may help, challenging it can too. For instance, people who speak more than one language have lower rates of Alzheimer's. Doctors recommend doing puzzles and staying mentally engaged in life, like working. A recent study found those who delay retirement decrease their risk by 4% each year they stay on the job. Physical exercise helps too. Mounting evidence suggests that raising your heart rate for at least 30 minutes several times a week can make a huge difference. But even with all this knowledge, the real hope for beating Alzheimer's is to find a cure or treatment. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might.
I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, now playing. If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Grace, music is unpredictable.
I know I have what it takes.
The Dove Foundation raves. Grace Unplugged is remarkable and inspiring.
This is not about the music. It's about everything else that goes with it.
Dad, were you watching me?
A moving and meaningful film.
This book, his words shook me. It was like my whole world.
That parents and teens should see together, says Focus on the Family.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna drag her back home?
Yeah, I might.
I think maybe you're fighting God. Just stop running.
Grace Unplugged, rated PG, now playing.
And finally today, CBN's Orphans Promise is helping gypsy communities in the Ukraine to grow their own potatoes, vegetables, and corn. It's part of an ongoing project called Something to Eat Every Day. In total, 168 large needy families raising 751 children are participating in the project. More than 55 tons of potatoes and 5 tons of various vegetables and corn were grown and kept for winter. The total harvest was more than 70 tons, and all the participants got food. And many of them donated part of their harvest to others in need. Great work there. Well, that is going to do it for CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. Make it a terrific Tuesday, everybody.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. all the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.